Alright, so let's talk about how my first video that I made was 8.5 minutes long because I realized I'm incredibly passionate about game-based learning and I just talked about it for 8.5 minutes. So I'm going to talk a little bit faster and I'm going to talk a little bit more direct about some certain things. So first thing is the first article where it actually mentioned the school in New York that's 6th through 12th grade, and I teach at a 6th through 12th grade school, so seeing the change from 6th graders to 12th graders working together to be inventive, to create, to justify all of these different things that they're making, I think is really great. The video mentioned the idea, one of their 7 points was that failure is refrained as being called failure, which I love. I want to put that in my classroom, like on a giant thing. Instead, they called it iteration, which is just the repetition of a process. And so if you're failing and failing and failing, it's great for students to know that it's a process. To get to the success that they want, they have to fail. And I think there's a lot of really great famous people who have mentioned that, but knowing that it's part of their structure in their school just blows my mind. I feel like most schools should do that, and we don't. We see failure as this horrible, horrible thing instead of helping students realize it's just a process. So I really love that. I also loved when they talked about in the video for Quest to Learn, the idea that their classes like math are called Code World and science is called The Way Things Work, and the idea of, telling stories with different mediums also. I think that really is something that I believe in, and it's something I try to do in my classroom, like using music videos instead of text for close reading, which is what mine and Lily's PBI it might be about. So that was pretty cool. The 4 stages of ed tech integration, I thought the one that was the most important and relevant was stage 4, which is the highest level with self-direction, because game-based learning cannot possibly be successful unless students are curious and they're engaged and they have that self-direction where they can read the directions, they can take it, they can make new rules, and they can go with it. So I think not having that as a stage 4 or not having it in general in your classroom with the way you manage, it makes gameplay almost impossible because it's still teacher is talking the whole time instead of students engaging and creating their own lessons out of just something that you've mentioned. So the technology enabled personalized learning article, I thought the most important part was the fact that we are no longer one size fits all, and game-based learning, especially if we integrate it in a way that their games go at different rates depending on what they accomplish. Like in the video it mentioned lessons that are more like quests, where you can't go forward in a quest unless you've already done the quest before, and where it's constantly, there's not like you're getting a certain amount of coins, you answer a question, you go in a different direction, whereas another class member might answer it differently and then go somewhere else, and then you have to talk about it and you have to discuss and you have to decide strategy. So I think those are really important, so that one size fits all is no longer relevant. I think everybody is so different and their learning styles are different that it's important to acknowledge that and to grow from it and make ideas. The Utopia assessing students as they play article, I thought the idea, really the one that stuck with me as my aha moment for that was just not picking a random game, but picking one that's actually meaningful for the classroom and that fits into your management, your teaching styles, but also that the students understand does have purpose and that it's not just a random game, but that they're going to learn and grow from it. The video that was embedded in that, the one thing that I do stress in my own classroom is that everyone does have a role, where there might be role cards that are given out where nobody's just sitting there doing nothing. I think whether they're the facilitator or whether it's their turn to play or whether they're doing something time management or note taker or strategy maker, everybody has a role, and I think they need to reflect on that and which role they think they would be best at. So the other ISTE student standard that I think is most relevant with gameplay is the idea of the innovative designer, because the students in this particular ISTE is designing a process, they're identifying, they're solving problems, they're creating new imaginative solutions to problems that we give. Why can't that be in a game? So I think that's probably the ISTE that helps game-based learning, because it pushes students to actually be innovative and create rather than just follow directions on a page. The last thing about Pokemon Go, the idea of games being used in the classroom, it actually made me laugh when I saw that, because I did play Pokemon Go in 2016. I actually currently I'm trying to pull it up on my phone right now, but I haven't opened it in a very long time. I think the article is kind of outdated, which if anything shows that how fast and progressive game-based learning can be in the classroom, because in 2016, that fall, it was probably a great idea for teachers to use, but by the spring of 2017, it was dead. Nobody played it anymore, and it was no longer relevant, and even now in 2018, almost 2019, I think I would be laughed out of my classroom of freshmen English if I told them I still played Pokemon Go. And even though I think it would be really cool because the landmarks and Pokestops could be used for like social studies and context of culture and community building, I think it's just evolved. Even though there are now features in the game that match the article a little bit better, like there is a collaborative piece that wasn't there in 2016 when Utopia created this article about it. I think it's just not interesting to students anymore. They're no longer engaged in it, so they would think it's lame. And I think that just shows that we as educators have to overcome those obstacles. We have to communicate with them, we have to hear them, we have to talk to them, find their interests, find their passions, and then create something out of that, which is why our job is just so important. We can't just go off of things that have been done in the past. We have to constantly be learning and growing to make them more engaged and make students more active and involved in their own learning, which is really what game-based learning is all about. So this is a giant board game that I created on the floor of my classroom last year just using electrical tape, and then there was a box that they would throw for dice, but the different directions would lead to different markers, which all the different colors were different things that they could land on, different scenarios that would take them from the front door, which was the first day of senior year, all the way to the back door, which is high school graduation. So it didn't matter which direction they went to. The goal was that they were going to be engaged and they were going to get to graduation. Just some of them would earn different points or different SAT hours or different college scholarship money. And it was for them to be engaged and to see, like, here are all the different things that could happen to you, but there is a similar outcome. And that was kind of the goal of the game.